This organization basically coordinates Indian private sector participation in ITU activities, in APT activities, and in various government activities in terms of telecom and ICT policy framework. I'm going to share my screen and
yeah, please go ahead and do that. And I know you have a presentation for us, so go ahead.
See that, I suppose?
Yeah, that's good. That's perfect.
So as I was mentioning, this ITU-APT Foundation of India consists of these two words, ITU and APT. ITU, as you know, is the global body based out of Geneva, which coordinates global telecommunication, and APT is its counterpart in Asia, based out of Bangkok, Thailand. And we coordinate both of those activities right here in India. ITU-APT Foundation was formed in 2002. And now we have almost 18 years, and we have a large number of membership, both from India and other countries. We have individual membership where most of the telecom specialists, mainly who have worked all their life in telecom, are part of our membership. We also have corporate members, most of the telecom companies, global telecom companies, satellite telecom companies, they're all our corporate members. So ITU-APT's whole sole function is how do we increase our presence in ITU activities, in APT activities, or in telecom in general. I also chair the ITUR Working Party 5D. There's a sub-working group on PPDR. Many of you may not know what PPDR is. PPDR is a term that I coined in 2000 at WRC 2000 in Istanbul, which stands for two words, PP for public protection and DR for disaster relief. This mainly is to coordinate the spectrum requirement and technologies for public safety and disaster relief. So I continue to chair the PPDR group in ITUR as well as in the APT. I'm also working closely with the World Wireless Research Forum, WWRF, based out of London and Geneva, and very active participant in that group as well, plus many other groups. So with that short intro to ITU-APT Foundation of India, I'm going to start to take you on a very short, maybe 10 to 15-minute journey on where we are in terms of Wi-Fi in India. Okay. So I think we are all in this COVID situation. We have been working at least for 6 months. I have not gone out of India. Last meeting I had attended was in Geneva, which was Working Party 5D in February. And since then I've been home locked, always working, and the work has increased. So all over India and the world, there has a lot of increased activity during the COVID because of working from home, because of remote working. And this has really caused tremendous pressure on the Wi-Fi. Most of the time we are in Wi-Fi, whether we are in the home or on a call or on a video chat. And as you would see from this little summary, the demand for Wi-Fi and therefore Wi-Fi spectrum has increased quite a lot. 50% may be an underestimate, I would say. Now, when we look at India, now you're talking of India, it's a unique country with 1.3 billion people. And when we see that kind of population, it is not as if it is spread all over. It is concentrated in a number of smaller cities and towns. And yesterday I was looking at the number of the population in different cities. Almost half of the world's biggest highly populated cities are in India. And the way I look at it, in a typical home in India, there will be, and we still have joint families, there'll be 15 to 20 people, all of them on the internet, all using the same pipe that comes to the home, either through wireless or through wired means. But inside the home, all of them are on the same network, and that causes huge problem with the limited spectrum that we have in India for Wi-Fi, and that's really the issue that India needs to tackle, providing for high density, high speed wireless broadband at home that can only be done through sufficient spectrum that needs to be given for Wi-Fi. Now, where are we today? In India, if you see, we have the unlicensed bands in 2.4 gigahertz, which is most commonly used by everybody. Most of the devices use that, most of the TVs use that, most of the computers use that. We also have 5 gigahertz band, not so extensively used, but still used. And there's almost 600 megahertz in that, which has been unlicensed in India. But that all adds up to less than 700 megahertz. And that's so small compared to the requirement for India, which some studies have indicated that at least 2 gigahertz spectrum is needed. And that we are not even just one third of it. So definitely there's a huge requirement. And that limitation of the spectrum is actually hindering the economic development of the country. This is the spectrum which is lying unutilized. There are spectrum which could be used for Wi-Fi, which is not currently being used. So on one hand, the India's economic development is being constrained. On the other hand, the same spectrum which can be used for this is lying underutilized. So this is a challenge. I think uh, the Indian government needs to move very fast in correcting this major issue. Uh, I think, as Klaus just mentioned, globally, many countries around the world have already found the next Wi-Fi band in 6 gigahertz. Great band, I would say. And I won't run through this list, but FCC was the pioneer in opening up this 1.2 gigahertz spectrum, and then followed by Korea and Brazil and Europe and UK and UAE and Taiwan. The list is going on and on and on. I've not put the whole list, but around the world, I see countries are looking at how do we open up this band for Wi-Fi. So it's a global band. It's a ecosystem which is developing very fast, and I'm sure there'll be speakers who will talk about the ecosystem with the devices and things like that. But as far as we in India are concerned, we need to look at a globally harmonized band for Wi-Fi, and this is that next band. So let's all see how best we can make this band available in India. So I'm back to the India story. If you look at this band, and many of you know what the radio regulations are, ITU has this red book where all the bands are allocated to different services, and then there are countries which have their own spectrum plans, and they lay down what any particular band could be used for. If I look at this particular band of 6 gigahertz, which starts from 5925 gigahertz, 5925 megahertz, going up to 7025 megahertz, this band is allocated to three services: the fixed service, the fixed satellite service, and the mobile service. Wi-Fi falls under the category of mobile service. So as far the ITU radio regulations are concerned, the band is already allocated to Wi-Fi to mobile service, as could be seen on this. And not only in global basis, but even in India, we have the India National Frequency Allocation Plan, NFAP, which was last amended and revised in 2018, and is going to be revised again. The band is already allocated to mobile service in India. Of course, there are different restrictions and limits that are imposed in the radio regulations. We don't need to go into that because most of them relate to what should be the limits on the satellite services. As far as the mobile services are concerned, there are not any limit particularly in Asia. So the whole band from 5925 to 7025, and note that the upper portion of the band 6700 to 7025 is what we call an appendix 30B band. Appendix 30B is a part of the radio regulation where the band is planned for fixed satellite services. So that's a what we call as a plan band. So you have to make sure that when you do the use the plan band, you have to protect the planned services, which is the FSS in this case. So from a radio regulation perspective, we are clear what this band is. So the band is allocated to mobile service. The band is available for Wi-Fi. Now, when we come down to how it is actually being used in India, the most important use for this in India today is for uplinking of the TV channels. And India is a huge TV market. There are almost 200 million TV households, and the number of TVs may be much more because many households have more than one TV. So we are talking in terms of almost 500 million TVs around the country, and these are being served by 900 satellite TV channels, which include 300 pay TV channels through 1600 registered MSOs, multi systems operators, and 117 million subscribers which use that particular service. So that's major use uplinking of the TV channels to the satellite for directly sending to the MSOs, which then distribute locally to the homes. The second part is the large satellite station, which are used for the feeder links for heavy traffic. The band is also used for telemetry tracking and command uplinking, mainly for monitoring of the satellites. Plus the other, which is I think more bigger issue from a Wi-Fi perspective, is the use of this band for VSATs. Now VSATs are basically ubiquitously spread around the country. So those VSAT, there are almost 300,000 VSAT terminals in C and KU band. And the good story is they're mostly moving to KU band, but there are C band VSATs. And those VSATs are spread all over, and they use this particular band again for the uplink and downlink. Plus, there are, of course, some niche services of feeder links for MSS, etc. So the band is being used extensively, not that it's not being used. But the good part is that it can still be shared by low power indoor Wi-Fi, which is the major important requirement. So low power indoor requirements can be met by sharing all of these bands, the whole of the 1 gigahertz band with these existing applications. Now, the current discussion in India on this is that let's look at this band in parts. The lower part, which is 5925 to 6425, may be an easier uh, find because it's mainly used for uplinking, not many VSAT, and therefore perhaps maybe easier. As far as low power indoor is concerned, the whole band is there. But as far as outdoor is concerned, again in low power mode, it may be possible to look at certain bands. And I think this is an exercise with which the regulator will start doing it once they start looking at this band. But possibility exists that as far as indoor low power is concerned, and I think the actual concerned user today, the Department of Space has already said that as far as the indoor low power is concerned, we have no issues and it can still be used straight away. So the sharing of the low power indoor with satellite and point-to-point microwave is possible, and this will, of course, increase the efficiency of wireless LAN, much higher throughput. The fixed satellite services that I mentioned, which are using, can still share with even outdoors. Unrestricted outdoor will not be so easy. Therefore, in India, we are not supporting use of this particular band for IMT or mobile services, mobile cellular services. And that's an opportunity for Wi-Fi, because if it cannot be given for IMT or cellular mobile services, then the best use it can be put to is for Wi-Fi. Because if we, and there is a lot of debate at the last WRC in Sharm el Sheikh, that this band could be used for IMT as well. But clearly from an India perspective, this is not possible. We have extensive use of the band for satellites, and sharing between IMT and satellite is not feasible, and therefore it should not be allocated to IMT. It should only be allocated and used for Wi-Fi. So I'm just coming to my last point, which is what ITU-APT Foundation has been urging the government of India. Those 3 points, which are most important point, we need to delicense 5925 to 7025 megahertz band for low power indoor only Wi-Fi. That will support the digital innovation. That will support what the Prime Minister Modi has given the slogan called Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-dependent India, and that is very, very important, particularly in view of the COVID situation. And of course, we need to have more studies on the lower part of the band, 5925 to 6425, for low power outdoor Wi-Fi usage without impacting the existing satellite services. And that's an area where we have already offered to the government that we will be part of those studies. We can help government do those studies. And at the same time, the higher band, that 7025 to 7125, which was agreed in the WRC 19 to be identified for studies for IMT. We fully support that. Those studies should be done, and those studies are already starting. It's part of the agenda item of the WRC 23. We are working with the government on that to promote those studies, to make sure that we have all the calculations done and all the sharing done, so that that band could be allocated to IMT. With that, thank you so much, class, Wi-Fi Now, and the team here.
All right.